going on, everyone? Good morning, and welcome back to another episode of Seahawks Now, your home for all things daily Seahawks news, updates, rumors, coverage, all of that stuff and more right here on Seahawks Now, brought to you by Fan Arch. If you like what you see, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. We're going to be talking about just what Cooper Kupp can do to change the Seattle Seahawks offense. Brand new wide receiver in Seattle. We love to see so many new players, so many new faces on the Seahawks team, but how is it going to actually change the way the Seahawks offense works? We're going to talk about that. Plus, we discuss a potential left guard / left tackle option in former Viking free agent Cam Robinson, and talk about a potential tight end option in current free agent former Jet Tyler Conklin. So that is what we're going to be getting into today. Let's begin with Cooper Kupp, though. Obviously, the Seahawks recently signed the Yakima, Washington native, former member of the Eastern Washington football team, to a 3-year, $45 million contract. It's going to pay him $15 million a year annually. Pretty team-friendly contract, I would say. I think it's maybe a slight overpay, but to be fair, Cooper Kupp, when he's healthy, he's still a top-flight receiver. Just recently had that amazing season back in 2021 when he went for almost 2,000 yards, won the Triple Crown, and he's 32 years old, so I think that he can still be a good target this year. I don't think he's the same player necessarily that he once was, but I still think he's a good player, so I don't know if I would necessarily agree that it was an overpay. I know there are some people saying that it was, and I see both sides of that argument, but either way, he's on the team now. And I think he will change Seattle's offense. I think the big question is what's it gonna look like without DK Metcalf? Because obviously Metcalf was that big over the top guy. He was like our AJ Brown. I like to describe Metcalf as AJ Brown light. He's like that next best guy. And without that big dominating target, it's like the Chiefs have Kelsey, the Eagles have Brown, the Steelers had Pickens, and now Metcalf as well. You don't need to have that, though, to succeed, right? I mean, we've seen the Bengals, for example, with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. They didn't have a DK Metcalf-like player, but they just had two really good receivers, and so it worked. Look at the Rams last year with Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. Again, kind of the same thing. They just had two good receivers. They didn't have one guy who was just massive and could just go over the top, but it worked for them. It worked for them. Minnesota with Darnold last year, I think is a little bit of a different argument because obviously, yeah, you're right. They didn't necessarily have that big weapon either, but they did have Justin Jefferson, who kind of plays a similar style to DK Metcalf in the sense that he can just catch anything. And so I think that the Seahawks, though, we shouldn't expect the offense to look the same as it did last year. And we certainly shouldn't expect it to look like Minnesota last year. Now, it will in the sense that, yes, Sam Darnold's going to be the quarterback. He'll be under center. He'll be the one throwing the ball. But it's going to be different in the sense that we don't have Justin Jefferson. And as much as I love Cooper Kupp and as much as I really, really love Jackson Smith and Jigba, neither of those guys are Justin Jefferson. And to expect them to do that, that's asinine. We can't go into next season thinking if we don't look as good as the Vikings last year, then the season's ruined. Because that's obviously not the case. We're going to have probably a better defense than the Vikings did already. So that will help. That will definitely help. But as far as the offense goes, I think where Cooper Kupp fits into this puzzle is he's going to be there to do a lot of short passing routes. I think he's going to kind of occupy the middle of the field. And yes, he is a slot receiver at this point in his career. I don't know if I would say he's an elite slot receiver. He's a good slot receiver. And so JSN on the other side, I would say, is an emerging elite slot receiver. You say, well, what are we going to do with two slot receivers? Well, we're going to run the wide zone offense. It seems very clear to me that is the direction that this thing is headed. And the wide zone offense is all about you get two receivers who are good at the same thing. In this case, two good to great slot receivers, and you get a great run game, and you push the ball methodically down the field. And that's kind of what this offense is being built to do. It's not an offense that's going to beat you over the top like the Chiefs or Buffalo, and it's not an offense that's going to run the ball into the ground like Baltimore. It's going to be an offense that's going to work together cohesively between the running game and your two weapons, Kupp and Njigba. And I think that the Seahawks understand, like Sam Darnold, he's not a Russell Wilson. He doesn't throw a moon ball. You're not going to see deep passes a lot next year. I would venture that the Seahawks might have fewer 20-yard passes than they have in the past 15 years next year, because that's not the style that they're going for. They're going for the style of, we're going to methodically move the ball downfield. We're going to get JSN and Cooper Kupp open in the middle of the field for these 10, 15-yard slant routes, curl routes, stuff like that. And then we're going to pound K9 and Charbonnet, who are a great unit from the ground. We're going to help Sam Darnold feel as comfortable as he can be. And then, yeah, maybe once or twice a game, we'll find Marquez Valdes-Scantling down the field for a 20-yard, a big 20-yard gain. But that's not going to happen every game. Obviously, MVS, if you look at the past 4 years, he's got a 22.6 yards per reception, which is great. And so, yes, we do have that home run hitter receiver. The problem is MVS also drops a lot of passes, and he is just not the guy that is going to be a high-volume weapon. So if he can just be good for 1 or 2 big home run plays per game and leave the rest up to Cooper Kupp and JSN, I think that's the way that they envision this offense functioning. All right, I want to touch on Cam Robinson, Vikings left tackle. He's still available as a free agent, and I think he could make an intriguing player for the Seahawks to go out and grab. Obviously, last year he was protecting Sam Darnold. That certainly is part of the reason why I think that he would make some sense. Cam Robinson, apparently, there are not a whole lot of teams interested. This is the weird thing, is that I haven't seen a whole lot of teams interested. He was traded from the Jaguars to the Vikings last year and had a good season, I thought. 6'6", 335 pounds. He was a second-round pick with the 34th overall draft pick. So, again, barely missing out on that first round. Last year, he had an approximate value of 8, which is good for an offensive lineman. It's good for a tackle. He played 7 games with the Jaguars and then 10 with the Vikings before that. He spent his entire rest of his career with the Jaguars. And last year was statistically, according to approximate value, last year was his best season since his rookie year. So the metrics look pretty good. He's entering his age 30 season. Again, he has a relationship with Sam Darnold. He protected Darnold last year. And the Seahawks could definitely use some more O-line help. The Seahawks did not end up signing Garrett Bradbury. I've been saying I was hoping that they would have signed Garrett Bradbury by now, but he went to the New England Patriots. Meanwhile, we also are still waiting to hear on Tevin Jenkins, who visited the Seahawks on Monday, and I guess he was still there on Tuesday, but the Bengals are also eyeing Tevin Jenkins, so it sounds like, there's certainly some competition there. It sounds like the Colts might be interested in Tevin Jenkins as well. But I definitely still think that the Seahawks should add at least one more offensive lineman. Preferably, I would love for them to add 2, but 1 is better than none at this point, and at this point, they have signed none. All right, let's go into the final portion of this video. The Seahawks, I still think the Hawks need to look at the tight end position as well. Noah Fant definitely had a down year last year, and Pharaoh Brown really did not do anything as the number 2. I think A.J. Barner could potentially be your future tight end number 1, but locking down a veteran playmaker at tight end might not be the worst decision in the world for Seattle. And to that, I bring you Tyler Conklin. Tyler Conklin, I think he can make sense as a tight end target. He was a former Jet, played last year with Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he was there with Darnold. I believe Conklin was drafted the year after they got rid of Darnold. But look at his numbers last year. They were pretty good. He had an 8.8 average yards per reception, went for 449 yards, 4 touchdowns on 51 receptions, and he went for 262 yards after the catch. He's also a pretty good blocking tight end. That's never been a weakness in his game. Again, he's not a high-volume tight end. He's not going to put up Jimmy Graham-level numbers. He's not going to put up, anything close to Travis Kelce. But if you can bring in a guy who can put up 400 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns as you potentially, while he's also mentoring AJ Barner, and eventually Barner can take over as your tight end 1, and Conklin, you end up with a veteran tight end 2, then yeah, I would love to see that happening in Seattle. I think that would make a lot of sense. He is a free agent. He wouldn't be that expensive. Probably might cost you $2 or $3 million. Might have to pay him for a couple seasons, but I would be willing to shell out, a 3-year, $10 million contract. I think that's about what he's worth, and I would be willing to do that. I think he would make a lot of sense as a good weapon, especially because, yeah, he can also block. He's a good blocking tight end. And the Seahawks, again, the way this offense is going to work, you're going to see a lot more running the ball, I believe, in this offense than you did last year. Well, guys, with that all being said, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe down below if you haven't already. It really helps out the channel. Leave a comment. Guys, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with the Seahawks should have signed Cooper Kupp, or do you wish the Seahawks had gone in a different direction at receiver? All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow, and as always, until next time, go Seahawks.